Every day, you ask it for the truth. You ask it where to go, what to buy, and who to trust. You've let it into your pockets, your cars, and even your front doors. But while the world was busy clicking "I agree" to terms and conditions they never read, a small research project from Stanford was quietly executing the most ambitious takeover in human history. It didn't happen with an army or a coup. It happened through a mathematical formula called PageRank. Today, this company knows your location within 99% accuracy, controls 40 cents of every dollar spent on the digital internet, and has been legally declared a monopolist by the US government. This isn't just a search engine anymore. It's the invisible infrastructure of the modern world. This is the story of how Google quietly became the most powerful company on Earth. The year was 1996. The internet was a digital Wild West, a chaotic, unorganized mess of static pages where finding information was like looking for a needle in a global haystack. Early search engines like AltaVista and Yahoo relied on keyword density. If you searched for cancer, they would show you the page that repeated the word cancer the most times. It was easy to game, full of spam, and fundamentally broken. Enter Larry Page and Sergey Brin, two Stanford PhD students who looked at the web not as a collection of words, but as a network of citations. They realized that in academia, the most important research papers aren't the ones with the most words. They're the ones that other researchers cite the most. They applied this logic to the web. If page A links to page B, that's a vote of confidence. If that vote comes from a highly important page, like a university or a government site, that vote carries more weight. This was the birth of PageRank. It was a recursive mathematical beauty that transformed the internet from a library without a card catalog into a meritocracy of information. By the time Google launched in 1998, it was so much better than the competition that it didn't need marketing. It had a clean, white homepage that stood in stark contrast to the cluttered portals of the era. It felt like magic, but as the "I'm feeling lucky" button became a staple of human existence, the founders realized that organizing the world's information required something more than just a good algorithm. It required a business model. As the 2000s progressed, Google's ambition shifted. They realized that to provide the best search results, they needed to know more than just what was on a webpage. They needed to know who was searching. This began the era of data dominance. Google didn't just want to be a search engine. They wanted to be the operating system of your life. In 2005, they made a quiet $50 million acquisition that would change everything: Android. By giving away a mobile operating system for free to manufacturers like Samsung and HTC, Google ensured that their search bar would be in the pocket of every human being on the planet. Today, Android is the largest computing platform in history. But Android was just the tip of the iceberg. Think about the closed loop of data Google has built. When you use Google Maps, they track your physical movement repeatedly with 99% accuracy regarding which store you entered. When you use Gmail, they understand your receipts, your travel plans, and your professional network. When you use Chrome, they see every site you visit, even if it has nothing to do with Google. On social media platforms like Reddit and X, formerly Twitter, users often joke about Google, knowing I'm pregnant before I do, or seeing an ad for something I only thought about. While they aren't listening to your microphone in the way conspiracy theorists suggest, their data profile of you is so granular from billions of data points across YouTube, search, and maps that their predictive algorithms don't need to listen. They already know what you're going to do next. Google is often called a tech company, but in reality, it is the world's most successful advertising agency. Approximately 75% to 80% of Alphabet's, Google's parent company, staggering $300+ billion annual revenue, comes from ads. They achieve this through a triple threat of ad tech: Google Search, intent-based ads; YouTube, video-based ads, and the Google Display Network, which places ads on millions of non-Google websites. This created a monopsony, a market where they control both the tools that advertisers use to buy ads and the tools that publishers use to sell them. In recent years, especially heading into 2025 and 2026, Google has integrated AI overviews and Performance Max into this empire. These tools use machine learning to automate where your money goes. Critics argue this makes the black box of Google even darker. Advertisers are increasingly forced to trust Google's AI to spend their budgets, often with less transparency than ever before. This dominance is so absolute that Google currently captures nearly 40 cents of every single dollar spent on digital advertising globally. They have effectively built a private tax on the digital economy. The "don't be evil" era is long gone. Replaced by a decade of intense legal scrutiny, in 2024, a landmark ruling by Judge Amit Mehta officially declared Google a monopolist in the search and text advertising markets. The U.S. Department of Justice, DOJ, successfully argued that Google's multi-billion-dollar deals to be the default search engine on iPhones and browsers were anti-competitive. On social media, the reaction was explosive. New York Attorney General Letitia James posted on X that this was a major victory to stop unchecked corporate power. Meanwhile, privacy advocates point to the $5 billion Incognito Mode settlement, where Google was caught tracking users even when they thought they were browsing privately. We are now entering the remedies phase. The courts are considering radical solutions, forcing Google to share its data with competitors, banning default search agreements, or even a nuclear option, breaking the company apart by spinning off Chrome or Android. Google didn't become powerful by force. They became powerful by being useful. We gave them our data because Google Maps is the best way to navigate. We gave them our attention because YouTube is the world's library, but in doing so, we've created a company that sits at the center of the human experience. As we move deeper into the age of artificial intelligence, Google is pivoting. They're no longer just showing you links. They are trying to provide the answers themselves through Gemini. But the question remains, if one company controls the search, the data, the ads, and now the answer is left to keep them in check, Google quietly became the most powerful company on earth by making themselves indispensable. Now, the world is finally waking up to the price of that convenience.